Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts and take a look at some really brutal red that we saw today and some potential dip buying opportunities. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so you guys are probably wondering why the markets are so red. Well, don't feel bad because actually a lot of the markets were red today. As you guys can see, Bitcoin was at 71,000 and it went down to 69,000. And Render, for example, was at 1050. Now it's down to 960. So even crypto was getting beat down quite a bit. You can see like a lot of red, not just AMC and GME, although that was down. I think GME and AMC were down due to a combination of GME earnings coming out negative, which obviously is not what Wall Street wants to see, but we don't really care about what Wall Street wants to see when it comes to the meme stocks, right? And also the jobs numbers. Apparently, there was a lot more job creation than it was much higher than expected, which basically technically it would be good news if we were in a QE bull market or basically the Fed funds rate what is at all-time lows. But because the Fed's trying to cool inflation, when the job market data comes in hotter than expected, that could potentially be seen by the Fed as inflationary, which means there's a risk that the markets think maybe the Fed might hike rates again. In my opinion, that's probably not going to happen. I mean, the Fed's been having the rates sit steady for like almost a year, so I don't see that likely, but I don't know. We'll see. So anyways, you guys can see that even the miners got beat down quite a bit, which really sucks because today I had a lot of calls on some of the miners. So I had what was it, Riot and Hut 8 calls were in the money, or not in the money, out of the money actually, but in profit. And they were going to get called away at a profit. And I didn't get the opportunity to do that because, yeah, the market got kind of smashed today. So that sucks, not going to lie. As you guys can see, pretty much almost all of big tech got smashed. I mean, there was maybe a couple of outliers here. So Apple was up a little bit, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, everything else was down. Even Nvidia was down a little bit, although that's kind of negligible because Nvidia is like superhuman. But you can see that there's not really a whole lot of green. So the thing I do want to point out here, though, is that the unemployment rate did tick up again. It went from 3.9 to 4. I've been pointing this out to you guys that this is not a good sign. We do not want to see this go up. Now that I can't even talk right now. Now that it is at 4%, that is a little bit concerning, if you ask me. I mean, look, the reality is it doesn't matter what the economy looks like. The Fed's not going to get this inflation thing perfect. There is the illegal immigration thing going on in the United States that's causing inflation that the Fed has no control over. And until basically they kick out the illegal immigrants that don't belong here, that's going to continue to be a contributing problem under the Biden administration. That's kind of counteracting what the Fed's trying to do with inflation. So it's a big hot mess, and there's really only two things that are, in my opinion, that are going to make the Fed pivot and start cutting rates. Number one, unemployment gets out of control. Number two, the inflation rate gets down to 2 to 2.5%. In my opinion, unless one of those two things happen, the Fed is not going to cut rates. They may not hike, but they're not going to cut. So that's kind of what's going on. That's a little bit of the backstory of the markets and what's going on with also the grayscale trust. So it is relevant. So LTCN, we're still respecting this trend line. We didn't quite get below these candle lows here. If I actually zoom in, I really got to zoom in to see this. So, okay, so I take that back. It does actually look like we got a little bit below the previous candle lows. So that's not great. So with that being said, since it is a slightly lower low, although I wouldn't say it's super bearish, the targets we'd be looking for is about $24 on support. If it gets below that, maybe over the next couple of weeks, it goes down to the trend line. So somewhere between like 15 and a half to 17 and a half bucks, I would say, is what we're looking at. So basically from the bottom of the trend line to the swing high, you'd be looking at 125% to the next target, which is the $75 level, 217%, and then up to the 100 to 135 level would be 312 and 464%. If I were to measure it from, let's just say, maybe a couple weeks out, it hits the trend line. To the swing high, 210% to $75 level, roughly about 333%, and then to the range, about 482 to 680%. And those of you guys that are new to the channel, you're probably wondering about this. We're in a bull trend on this thing. I mean, this thing is likely to go higher, in my opinion. We would have to get a close below this level right here, below these candle tops, basically somewhere down here for the trend to actually be broken. So as far as I'm concerned, it could actually come down to $15, which is along this trend line and still technically be in a bull trend. Again, the swing high here is consistent with this control bar. That's the reason why we're looking at that. It did get rejected off of there pretty hard. $75 level is basically this price action right here. You can see this kind of cluster right here of all these wicks. And then the range, which was previously tested as support, is now resistance, and that would be 100 to 135. So BCHG, MACD death cross, just like LTCN. We did not get a lower low on BCHG though. In terms of structure, so we have the higher highs, higher lows going on. This is a bull trend. If this thing were to, in my opinion, turn into a bear trend, what we would, let me actually go back to LTCN for a second. So I take back what I just said. So if this zone right here sells off and becomes resistance, like it sells below, then it comes back and tests, and then makes a lower low at that point, then we have a confirmed bear trend. But if it gets past this structure level, it would also have to get past this one to basically pretty much guarantee that it's going to go lower. So we'd want to see something like, well, I'm not going to say we would want to see something like this, but this is kind of what it would look like. Break down, hit the trend line, retest, and then kind of just sell off. Maybe chop around a little bit at this kind of support zone. Come back down, retest, and then sell off some more. I don't think that's likely. Again, we're only 6 months away from the Bitcoin bull run, but you guys can kind of see my point here. So that would be a structural change in the price, which at this point in time we're not seeing. So unless the price of BCHG or LTCN gets below these support zones, I would say that's likely not really a red flag. We are still in the green, so to speak. We're in a bull trend. So as of right now, support you're looking for here is at 1020. Below that, maybe somewhere around 780. So from the current price to the swing high, you guys can see it's a big move, 117%. Other thing I want to point out here is that we do have a lot of testing of this kind of $11 level. You can see it's bounced many, many times off of this level in previous weeks. But from the lower level down here at, we'll say $7.50, $8, somewhere in there, to the swing high, about 204% move. So pretty big move there. HZEN, once again, we're in a bull trend on this thing. So high, low, higher low, higher high, higher low. And then the question is, does this become another higher high or a lower low? So we did get a classic retest of the trend line. So pretty much this is the ideal target to get in. Again, that's not financial advice. You guys can get in whenever you want. But up to 10.25, which is the target, would be about 116% move. Now, in the event that it does actually come down to the top of this support, which is possible, at 420, this thing would go all the way up to about 152% gain. I'll just actually kind of draw this trend line down so you guys can see it. It does eventually converge with the support there. So ETCG, we're getting kind of stuck in between support and resistance here. We'll have to wait and see what happens. It does look like, I don't know, man. I mean, this big red candle kind of looks a little iffy, if you ask me. I mean, it is also below the support. That's not good, although we did have a breakout even after we got below support back here. So that's something to be noted, but as of right now, we're holding support. Again, this support, in my opinion, is the ideal entry point as of right now. Below that, maybe the bottom of this channel at $11, which we did get a nice bounce off of previously. It moved up about $6 from that point, so pretty big move. So back up to the swing high at 1930 would be about 55%. Shockingly, ETH really hasn't moved much. So I guess apparently the markets are really, really bullish on the spot Ether ETF news, which we still have not seen any listings on. I'll take a second look at that, but I haven't seen anything myself. So as of right now, I would say there's a possibility we could pull back into support. That could happen. So that's at $29. Again, the target would be the swing, not this swing high here, because we already broke it, but actually this swing high up here, which is at $48. Again, that's 62% gain. Cup and handle target, as you guys can see here, cup, handle, breakout. So the target for that is all the way up here at $163. That's a 377% gain from the current price. If it comes down and tests support, which is possible at 29, that would then make it a 465% gain. So Phil G, this one got kind of slapped a little bit. I don't know what happened, but we may end up getting our entry that we wanted after all. Let me actually move this out. You guys can kind of see why I have this here. So a resistance here. I did get a breakout, and it was there was a battle going on between the bulls and the bears at this zone, and then eventually it tested and then took off. So again, that level's roughly about $37 to $40. If I pull the measurement tool back here, you guys can see it's as much as a 56% drop. In order to go bullish, we got to get above $159. That has to happen. If this thing is going to go bearish, it has to get below 57. So as of right now, we don't have a confirmation one way or another. We're kind of just stuck in between. So from the current price to the swing high, pretty big move. So about 368%. What am I trying to say here? So the other thing is that I want to point out to you guys is that we also need to get above this trend line. We are still currently below it. So that's something to point out. We also have a potential inverse head and shoulders pattern. So shoulder, head, and now we're getting our right shoulder, ideally. So the breakout target for that would actually be a new all-time high, which would be up at $604 roughly. From the current price to there would be 664%. And let's just assume for a second maybe it gets back down to support all the way up there. Massive, nearly 1,500% gain. So GBAT, this one's kind of holding at $14. There's a lot of price action here, so that makes sense. You get a support wick here, support wick here, support wick here, and another one as of this week. So we did get a break of the trend line. It did get a bounce off of support in the EMAs with this hammer candle here. You can see another hammer candle here. Every time we get one of these, it does look pretty bullish. So hammer candle, boom, big rip. Hammer candle here, big rip. Hammer candle here, big rip. Obviously, at the very bottom of a swing low, that is a very bullish sign. So from the current price to the swing high, still pretty good move, about 95%. If we do get a pullback into the trend line, which is possible, again, that is... Sorry. A random noise just kind of scared me a little bit. So if we do get a pullback into the trend line, which converges kind of roughly about with support at $10, the swing high move would be about 230% gain. GLIV, kind of similar story to GBAT. It looks very much the same. The only thing I would say here is that this is actually a hammer candle, so there's a possibility next week. This isn't perfectly at the bottom of a swing low unless this thing does rip to the upside and starting next week, and this is actually the low here. But either way, it's a hammer candle. That's a very bullish candle. So from the current price to the swing high, 129% move. If for whatever reason it's negated and we pull back, let's say to $26 at the trend line, the move would then be about 204%. So G-Link, yeah, this thing's not yet breaking structure, so it needs to break this 146 and then 175. If it doesn't do that, likely it comes back and tests the trend line, so about $87 is what you'd be looking at. So from current price to the swing high, 84% move. From the, can't even get it. So here from the trend line, roughly about, to the swing high, about 158% move. GSOL, this one's mostly just going sideways at this point. So a pullback into the trend line would be normal. That's $409, again, which is not very far from the current price. So from the current price to the high up here, 33% move. Let me actually remeasure this. I just screwed that up, y'all. Sorry about that. So from the trend line to the swing high, 39% move. So it's not a big move, but if I do the Fibonacci's here, so again, this would be a Fibonacci retracement from the swing high to the swing low. You guys can see that the move is absolutely ridiculous here. The target would be almost $2,000 a share, which is roughly about a 4x from the current price. GXLM, it is pulling back. So again, likely we're probably going to stop somewhere around this $32 level. Maybe even hit the trend line at $30, $30.50. So just keep an eye out for that. So from that pullback level to the high up here, 112% move. And from the trend line, which would be the nearest levels of support, would be about 123% move. And the high is up there at $70. So Mana, this thing did have a breakout, but it looks like we're retesting the EMAs. What's going to happen next week remains to be seen. But from the current price to the swing high, which again is at $70, it's a 165% gain. If we get a pullback into the support, which is definitely possible, the move up to the swing high would be 240%. And again, you can see a lot of resistance tested here and also a lot of support. So I do actually expect this support zone to hold. Okay, so it looks like we're getting a second wind here on Zcash, so it is coming back. It didn't just break straight out. Again, the super bearish market news today wasn't exactly great, but it is a good buying opportunity. So from the current price of the swing high, as you guys can see, it would be a massive move, 102% gain. If it gets lower into the support, which again, the bottom is about 440, the move would then be much bigger. It would be about 135% move. And again, the target's up there at 10.25. If you guys are wondering which ones I think the best setups are, I think LTCN's a good setup. I'd be looking to get some in here at support if I was going to get it, and then maybe wait for a drop down here to the trend line to get a little bit more aggressive. Same thing with BCHG, but with BCHG, I'd be looking for a drop into support, not into the trend line, to get a bit more aggressive. HZEN, this, if I was going to buy this now, this would pretty much be an immediate buy for me because it is testing the trend line, although I would not go all in. ETCG, same thing. I'd be looking to get in right now because I think it's probably about as close to that trend line as it's going to get, unless it gets a break of the trend line. ETH, I wouldn't touch this one because it's already moved. I'd wait for a pullback. PhilG, I don't want to touch this until it gets into that zone. GBAT, wouldn't touch this because again, it's already had its bounce and breakout move. The time to get in my opinion, was back here or somewhere along here. GLIV, this could be actually be a good entry with this hammer candle. That could be a good entry. I'm a little on the fence about that because again, this candle is lower than these ones. But I mean, on the basis it's a hammer candle, that's always a bullish sign. G-Link, I wouldn't touch this because again, it's very choppy. I'd be waiting for at least a pullback at the very least. GSOL definitely would not touch this, especially since it's chopping around at the highs. That could always be a sign of distribution. GXLM, I'd be waiting for a pullback into this lower support here for an entry. And Mana, yeah, same thing. Pullback into support. Zcash, I would get in on this immediately if this was me. So in terms of all of these, the ones I would probably go with at this point would probably have to be HZEN, BCHG, LTCN, and Zcash is the ones that I think are the best setups right now. Again, that is not financial advice. Do your own research. Understand what you're getting into, what you're trading, how all these things work, how the charts work. If you buy these or do anything with these, do it of your own accord. I'm not suggesting to buy anything. This is not financial advice. I'm just showing you guys what I see in the charts, okay? So anyways, this is the Grayscale Trust for the day. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.